Welcome to our channel today, everyone. Today I'm doing things just a little bit different. This is not my normal introductions where I normally go, "What's up?" I'm not going to do that. It's not. Today it's about abusive relationships, the signs. Now, before I really get into anything, people might think, well, what do you know? What do you do? Whatever. I've been in an abusive relationship. It was not me doing the abusing. It was the woman that I was with. So normally this is something that you would hear from a woman speaking. It's not an easy thing for me to talk about, even though it's been years. It took a long time to actually come out and say the person I was with was abusing me. That was both verbally and physically. Now, I will not get into any names. I will not get into any dates, as this is not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this to get it out there about different signs, different things to look for, and see if maybe that's what's happening to you. I'm not into accusing anyone. All it is simply telling my story, how things happened and how they developed over time. Now first of all, abusive relationships can be him or her being too demanding and running your life and controlling your life. Now, let me back up a little bit on that. If you've seen our video from yesterday, when my wife talked about me wanting to know where she went every day, or when she goes out, where she's going. Okay, just bear in mind that this is still lockdown. There's still things that are happening out there. I'm doing it. I want to know where she's going, when she'll be back, because I care about her. I don't want you to get that wrong feeling that I am controlling her. No, I want to know where she's going so I know when to expect her back, so that if she doesn't come back at a certain time, that I can go out looking for her, because I do care about her. I do love her. Now, I can guarantee and I can tell you right now that this story has nothing to do with Edelyn, the person I'm with now. It was in the past. So one of the things that you have this person start telling you everything, what to do, and I'm not just talking about simple things like, oh, why don't you wash the dishes? Oh, why don't you clean the floor? It's more the demanding thing. I've had where for no reason I would be blamed. Now, for instance, I'm going to just say for instance, I would come home, and I was literally home 15 minutes, and then she would come home and she would yell at me for the house being dirty or being messy. I just got home 15 minutes before. Now, some of you might go, well, that's no big deal, but we're talking about excessive. We're talking about every time you turn around. We're talking about that person saying, you can't be out on your own. You could never live on your own. You could never survive. You can't survive without me. And eventually, because of the way they treat you, that you start believing it. And now probably most women out there would understand what I'm saying. There's very few men that probably would, well, I don't know of any person, any man that would actually come out and say what I did, what I'm saying. It's, because it's stereotypically a woman that gets abused in a relationship, but not always. And if a man says he's been abused, other men look at him and say, you're not right. You're letting her run your life, whatever. I'm not going to go into saying bad words, because I'm going to try to keep it as clean as I can. And you might get some, and I might get some women out there that say, I don't believe you. I don't believe that happened to you. Why would you, how would a man let that happen? Well, it doesn't just happen overnight. It doesn't happen in such a short time. It takes a long time. It takes time that in this case here, a woman will treat you with love and really love you, and then all of a sudden they'll just start putting that damper on you, and they'll just close it off, and then all of a sudden, boom, they'll have you right where they want you, and then they control you. You'll get to the point where everything will be your fault. No matter what it is, everything will be your fault. If she comes home and she's hot, she'll go, oh, it's so hot out there. Oh, you'll turn around and instantly say, I'm sorry, it's hot. If I could cool it down, I would cool it down. Sometimes she would come home and she got rained on. I got rained on, now I'm all wet. I'm sorry you got rained on. I'm sorry you're wet. And it might sound a little bit like almost naive or babyish or like I'm whining about it. But you don't know until you've been through that, until you've been into that situation. And everything in your life revolves around that one person telling you what to do and how to control you, how to do your life and how to run your life. I had a job. I was working. But I would come home and I would be that whole different person at home. But it actually did start affecting my job, where I couldn't do my job. And it took a long time. It took a long time. But like I said, it starts out just little things, and what'll end up happening is they'll control you. They get to the point where they just tell you anything and everything. Like for instance, eventually I told her one time, I says, I'm gonna move out. You can't move out. You can't move out. You couldn't live on your own. You couldn't survive on your own. You don't make enough money. You don't do this. They'll tell you anything and everything. And eventually you do believe it. You believe everything that they say. Everything that they say, you believe. And in most cases where it's happening to a woman, the man might say, you're nothing without me. You couldn't live a day without me. You couldn't survive in this world. You're nothing. And the woman believes that. And that happens the same way to a man. It's not easy to talk about. It hurts. Even though it's been a while, I still feel it. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to get out of it. And I think the biggest thing is that you you have to understand that you have to get to the point where you're not the only one. You're not the one. It's not your fault. You're not the only one. And you can do it. You can do it. You can get out of it. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. It was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. One of the first thing that I did was I told somebody, because I ended up just basically just getting my neck ripped and just blood all over it. And I went to work and I just kept going, kind of going like this, and the person that I worked with, one of my bosses, said, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And I just go, it's sore. And she, she just goes, "Let me see." And she goes, "Oh my God, what's wrong? What happened to you?" I didn't want to tell her because I thought she would laugh at me. But I told her. And she was the one who helped me, told me, you gotta get out of there. You gotta get out of there. And I told her, the first thing I told her is, I can't afford it. "What do you mean you can't afford it?" And I says, "Well, I can't afford it." Because she says I can't afford it. "Well, how much you make?" We started figuring it out, and there's no reason why I couldn't. And so the biggest thing is that you have to, if you find yourself in those situations, and I know a lot of people do, maybe not, obviously I would probably say that there's probably going to be a lot more women than men. But, for you women out there, there are men that go through it. And I don't, I feel sorry for those women that do go through it, because I know exactly how they feel. It's when you feel that everything in the world, everything that happens is your fault. You're the blame, and you do nothing right. Everything they do is right, and everything you do is wrong, no matter how it is. It can even be to the smallest things like washing dishes. You're doing it wrong, and you just you feel vulnerable. You're a person, and all of a sudden you're nothing. You're nothing, and you're treated like that. And it's only my advice to anyone out there is, if you are being that way, if you're being treated that way, as much as it might hurt, talk to somebody about it. Talk to somebody. It's very hard, very, very hard to get out of it. But you can do it. When I did finally get out of it, and this is more things that you need to watch out for. When I was out of the relationship, when I finally moved out, because she just said, she says, "Why don't you get out?" And I says, I'll be out by next week." That's good. It's good. You better get out of here, because you're just nothing. You couldn't never survive on your own, and you're gonna find out. You're gonna come crawling back to me. And you just like, you go through all these, almost like withdrawals, you know, you go through, and you know, and when you are out, when you're finally out that first night, it's like freedom. It's just like this big weight has been lifted off your shoulders, and it's great until the next day. And then the next day, the next night, you start going, did I screw up? And you start getting, you know, you start going from here and falling down. You're going down into a depression, and that's another part of it. You know, you get depressed, and that person, because that person controls you, and eventually you just can't make any decisions. But that next day, you're going to have that feeling, and you're going to get depressed. You are going to get depressed. Trust me. But you gotta stop and go. But why am I here? Why am I here? What brought me to this point in my life? And you gotta stop and just admit that you were abused, that you were not being treated right. You're not being treated like a human being anymore. And then you gotta go, I'm gonna get through this. And the next night, you're gonna go through the same thing. You're gonna cry. You're gonna do everything that you did when you were in that relationship. And you're gonna kind of think, well, I'm going through the same thing as when I was in the relationship. Yes, but it's more of a what I would call a withdrawal. It's getting you tougher because you're sticking it out. And that third night, or rather I should say because the first night was okay, the second night, the third night, and then the fourth night, you're going to go through the same thing. And then the next morning you're going to wake up and you're going to go, I made it. I made it. I can make it. I can take this. Sorry. I can take it one day at a time. That's what you got to do. You got to take it one day at a time, and you'll get through it. It will be the hardest thing in your life, but you'll get through it. I did. And after getting out of that relationship, I soon became a better man. I was back to where I was before and got even better. Moved up in my job because of it. And one of the things I think that you really need to do too is, if you're in a relationship after that, let that person know. And let that person know that you will not put up with what you did before or what happened to you before. I was in a relationship after that. After that I was in a relationship and I was being treated close to being the same. And I said, no. I says, I'm not going to ever do that again. I says, nobody is ever going to treat me that way again. And I left that relationship because that relationship was just too demanding, where they were running me. Now, I'm not saying that I should run them, no, because a relationship is a two-way street. It goes both ways. You each have to talk to each other, and you have to tell each other, and you have to talk to each other about feelings and how everything is. Now, will you have misunderstandings or disagreements? Yes, you're going to have that. But if you sit there and talk to each other about it, you can get through those. But I personally, I have never, ever, ever hit a woman in my life, and I never will. And if I ever do, I'll walk out of that relationship. One of the reasons why I'll never do it is because I know how that feels to be treated that way. And it's not good. I think I've talked enough about it. I hope that this helps you. It's something that has always been on my mind, and it always is, and always will be. You never forget it. Once you've been through it, you never forget it, and you never want to be treated that way ever again. And it doesn't matter how good your relationship is, you still know how that feels, and you can still feel that pain. Having said that, I'm going to stop this video here now. I hope that if you're in a relationship like that, that you see those signs, you see those things, and you do whatever it takes to get out of there, to get out of that relationship. And sometimes it's not about you can't, I can't. I can't, you got to turn that I can't into how do I, how can I? And it may take some time, but eventually you need to get out, because it's not going to do you any good. It doesn't do your kids any good if you have kids. And it's just not good. It's not good. You just need to get out. So, having said that, guys, gals, everyone, I really appreciate you listening to everything that I've had to say. And for you guys that have not been through this, I hope you never go through it. For those of you that are going through it and want to make a comment, or if you'd like to talk to me, my wife and I, we can give you an email address, so we can talk about it, and see if there's something that we can, that I can help you with, as far as, just if nothing else, having a shoulder to lean on, somebody to hear you, because that's what it took for me. It took me someone to hear me and to listen to me and say no. And surprisingly, this was a woman that I talked to that said no. A woman can't even do that. That they can't do that. But anyway, guys, enough said. I appreciate you listening to everything and hearing my story. Thank you very much. We'll see you. Bye-bye.